Hello everyone, this is homework 7. We're going to be factoring and solving, in quotes, hard trinomials. The hard part really isn't hard, okay? It's just that these take more steps than your easy trinomials, but they're not hard. Before we can get into the factoring portion though, we first need to review what factoring by grouping looks like. And so I included the instructions here and I included an example here. So if you want to go through those, you can. I'm not going to go through this example, but it is here for you. So let's just jump right into example 1. Factor the polynomial by grouping. So it says here, step 1 is to group the terms in two groups of two terms so that each group has a common factor. That is true. You do need to do that for everything we are doing today. That's already going to be done. So where we're actually starting is on step 2. Factor out the GCF of each group. So what I am doing is I am looking at these two terms and then these two terms. So in my first two, x squared plus 4x, what is my GCF here? Well, all I can take out is an x. And what does that leave me with? That will leave me with an x plus 4. So then look at your next two terms. What can you take out of 3x plus 12? It has a GCF of 3. When you take out that 3, we are left with x plus 4. Hopefully you kind of notice something there. It says step 3, if there is now a common binomial factor in each group, like x plus 4 and x plus 4, factor it out. It does say if. You can't factor every polynomial that has 4 terms by grouping. All of ours will today. So factor it out. So I'm going to take out an x plus 4. And then what does that leave me with? Well, in this term, that leaves me with an x. And in this term, with a plus 3. Okay, let's do that again. And you want to make sure you get this, because if you don't understand this, we can't go to the next part, which is actually factoring. We have y squared minus 2y minus 20y plus 8. So take this first 2 here, your first grouping. What can I take out of 5y squared minus 2y? All I can take out is a y. So what does that leave me with? It's going to leave me with a 5y minus 2. Now look at this second grouping. What can I take out of negative 20y plus 8? I think we can all agree we're going to take out a 4. Last time I took out a positive 3, because these were already positive. When you take these out, you always want that first term here to be positive. So because it's a negative 20y, I'm taking out a negative 4. So negative 20y divided by negative 4 gives me 5y. And 8 divided by negative 4 gives me a negative 2. So now take that common binomial and factor it out. So my common binomial is 5y plus 2. And then what does that leave me with? That leaves me with a y minus 4. Okay, and your homework's going to start with some factoring by grouping. If you don't understand this, you need to rewind the video and keep watching it, or maybe find different videos on factor by grouping. You need to make sure you understand this before we can go to the next part. If you understand it, let's move on. So now that we know how to factor by grouping, let's factor. Okay, So here are the steps to factor. And then I put 2 My Math Lab questions. This is going to be My Math Lab question number 4 and number 5. I included these in here on the homework, and then on the homework because it walks you through these steps, and then I put it in the lesson because my math lab can get confusing when it tries to walk you through problems. So I want to do them on here so they don't confuse you. You're supposed to help. So here are your steps when you are factoring by grouping. Step 1 is to factor out the greatest common factor if there is one. That should be your first thing you do every single time. Do I have a GCF? Step 2, for the resulting trinomial, now we have an a here. Ax squared plus bx plus c, find 2 numbers whose product is AC and whose sum is b. We've already done that, right? Our step 2, that's when we go into our x. What is my a times c and my b? What adds up to b and multiplies to AC, and now a is going to be something other than 1. Step 3 is a new one. Then we are going to rewrite that middle term bx using these 2 factors here. If I scroll up here, if you notice, these right here had the same terms. We could have combined that to make that 7x, right? Here, we could have combined that to become negative 22y. So essentially what you are doing on step 3 is you are unsimplifying your trinomial and turning it into 4 terms. So that step 4, we can factor by grouping. Okay, so number 4 on your homework, and hopefully you get different numbers, but if not, good for you. Says A here, find 2 numbers whose product is 24 and whose sum is 14. So where did they come to that? When you look at this, we would first ask ourselves, do we have a GCF? And we don't. So then we would get into our x. My A times C is now 8 times 3 to get 24. And then my B term is 14. So their question part A is what adds up to 14 and multiplies to our AC. That's going to be 12 and 2. So that's what we would put right here. Part B is our step 3. My middle term, my bx, is this 14x. I'm going to rewrite that 14x using these 2 numbers here. So now we've got 8x squared plus 14x plus c is going to turn into 8x squared plus 12x plus 2x plus 3. I haven't changed this at all, right? If we combined our like terms, I get right back to that 14x. And now my step 4 is to factor by grouping. So I'm going to rewrite this down here so we can factor by grouping. And it does not matter. I'm doing 12x plus 2x plus 3. If we switch that and did 8x squared plus 2x plus 12x plus 3, you get the exact same answer. So it does not matter how you write those 2 numbers. So now let's group. What is my GCF in this first grouping? 8 and 12 are both divisible by 4. We have an x squared and an x, so I'm also taking out an x. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. X squared divided by x is x. 12x divided by 4 is 3, and the x's cancel. So now look at this second grouping and find your GCF. Well, if you notice, that second grouping is exactly what I'm needing here, right? And I can't take anything out of 2 and 3, and one has an X and one doesn't. So that means my greatest common factor is 1. You need that plus 1 there so you know what goes with that 4x for that second binomial. So if my GCF is 2x, my GCF is 1, that leaves me with 2x plus 3. And so now, part C, how does this factor? Well, I've got my common binomial, 2x plus 3. And then what am I left with? 4x plus 1. That's why you need that plus 1 there. And so that's my final answer. Okay, let's try again. Part 5 also walks you through this, but it walks you through it a little bit differently, okay? So complete the parts below to factor 15x minus 11x plus 2. So part A, find two numbers whose product is 15 times 2 equals 30 and whose sum is negative 11. So they're asking for the x here. My A times C is 15 times 2. And then my B term is negative 11. So their question is, the two numbers are, what adds up to negative 11 but multiplies to 30? It's going to be negative 6 and negative 5. Negative 6 times negative 5 gives me 30. When I add together, we get negative 11. So that's what we're writing here. So then part B wants you to rewrite negative 11 using the factors from part A. So negative 11x becomes negative 6x minus 5x. You could do plus a negative, but there's no reason to have the double sign there. So just 6x minus 11x. Nope. 6x minus 5x gets me back to that negative 11. And then part C, factor by grouping. So I'm going to rewrite this down here with my negative 6x minus 5x. So we have 15x squared minus 6x minus 5x plus 2. So my first grouping, what can I divide into 15 and 6? And that's going to be 3. You've got an x squared and an x, so I can take out an x in both of those as well. That's always going to happen, is you're going to take out an x in the first one. 15 divided by 3 is 5. X squared divided by x is x. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. And then those x's cancel. So now my second grouping, it's almost the exact same, but what's different? Well, here I have a negative 5x, and here I have a positive. Here I have a positive 2, and here I have a negative 2. So how do I switch the signs? I'm simply going to take out a negative 1. You're going to take out a negative anytime this first one here is negative. So now just switch the signs. So negative 5 divided by negative 1 is a positive 5x. And 2 divided by negative 1 is a negative 2. So you've got your common binomial. So 5x minus 2. And then that leaves us with 3x minus 1. Okay, so when you get to those two questions, they're going to help you walk through them. That's what they're looking for. From then on in your homework, it's just going to tell you to factor it. Use those same steps. So first, what do we look for? We're looking for a GCF. Always, always, always. So do I have a GCF? And I do. It is 2. So that leaves me with 8y squared minus 22y plus 5. So now go into your x. My a times c is 8 times 5. Don't go to the original, go to your smaller one. 8 times 5 is 40. My b is negative 22. What adds up to b and multiplies to ac? Negative 20 and negative 2. Hopefully the more you're doing this, the easier those are getting for you. Now, in the first lesson we did with factoring, that just became y minus 20 and y minus 2, and we were done. Here's where the hard part comes in. It's not hard, it's just more steps. We've got to factor by grouping, and we do that by rewriting this middle term. Because if we say this is our answer, right here from the beginning, y times y gives me y squared, and I need an 8y squared. Okay, so that's why that easy way to do it doesn't apply here. So I'm going to take this number here and rewrite it with these numbers here. And I'm just going to kind of forget about my 2 for a second. So I've got 8y squared minus 20y minus 2y plus 5. I have not changed my problem at all. If I combine my like terms, I get back to that negative 22y. So I'm unsimplifying my problem. Now we're factoring by grouping. So in this first group, 8 and 20, I can take out a 4, and they both have a y. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Y squared divided by y is y. Negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5, and the y's cancel. Here's my second grouping. Kind of like last time. The only thing different is my signs. So I'm just going to take out a negative 1. So that leaves me with 2y plus 5. So notice these are the same. So I'm factoring out a 2y plus 5. And then what am I left with? 4y minus 1. And don't forget that GCF we took out from the very beginning. Okay, again, it's not hard, it's just more steps. On B, look for a GCF. I don't have one, so we'll go straight into our X. My A times C is 16 times 9. Let me get out my calculator. You are going to have some big numbers on this assignment, so sorry ahead of time. And let me make this bigger. Okay, my A times C is 144. That's 16 times 9. My B term is 24. I thought this was going to be hard when I saw that 144, but the most common thing for 144 is 12 times 12, which happens to get me 24. So I'm going to rewrite this middle term with both of those 12s. So this becomes 16x squared plus 12x plus 12x plus 9. Group them and factor. What can I take out of 16 and 12? That's going to be a 4. And I can also take out an x. 16 divided by 4 is 4. X divided by x is x. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Those x's cancel. Here I can take out a 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. So I have a common binomial here. That's always going to happen. So 4x plus 3. And then I'm left with here a 4x plus 3. Now what happens when this happens? Hopefully you remember from, what was that, homework 5? We're on 7 now. On homework 5, when this happens, you need to condense it. If you get the same binomials, this becomes x plus 3 quantity squared. Does anybody remember what this is called? These are your perfect square trinomials. We're going to need that starting next week, I believe. Okay, we got 4 more, and they're both with solving. So, same thing as we've been doing. Step 1. Does your equation equal 0? Step 2. Do you have a GCF? Step 3. Factor. And then step 4, use your zero factor property. So on 3, when we're solving, does it equal 0? And it does not. So we're going to move that 15 over here. So that's going to become 2x squared plus 7x. You're subtracting the 15 over. So minus 15 equals 0. And let me scoot this over a little bit. Okay, step 2, do I have a GCF? And I do not. So then step 3, factor. My AC is 2 times negative 15, which is negative 30. My B term is 7. So what adds up to 7? It multiplies to a negative 30. And that is 10 and negative 3. So rewrite this middle term. So I've got 2x squared, and now this 7x becomes plus 10x minus 3x equals 15. And now factor by grouping. I can take out a 2x, and that leaves me with x plus 5. Here, I can take out a 3, but remember we always want this first term positive, so because it's a negative 3x, we're going to take out a negative 3, which leaves me with an x plus 5. So your binomial that you have the same comes down, x plus 5, and then I'm left with a 2x minus 3. Now, because we're solving this time, we need to go to step 4 and use that zero factor property. So I've got x plus 5 equals 0 to get x equals negative 5. And then 2x minus 3 equals 0. You're going to add the 3, divide by 2 to get x equals 3/2 for my 2 answers. B is the same thing. We're solving. So does this equal 0? And it does not. So a lot of us might be tempted to move this 18y squared over because that's only moving one term. But you want that y squared term to be positive. So versus, I'm going to move these other 2 over. So I'm going to have 18y squared. I'm going to subtract my 15y and add my 3 to get this right here. So that's your step 1, get it equal to 0. Step 2, do you have a GCF? And you do. So we've got 3, which is going to leave me 6y squared minus 5y plus 1 equals 0. So now I'm ready to go into my x. My a times c is 6 times 1. And my b term is negative 5. So what adds up to negative 5 and multiplies to a positive 6? And that's going to be negative 3 and negative 2. So I'm going to leave this 3 here alone for a second. And I'm going to rewrite what I have in parentheses with rewriting that middle term. So I've got 6y squared minus 3y minus 2y plus 1. Factor by grouping. In this first group, I can take out a 3y, which leaves me with 2y minus 1. In this second grouping, all I'm going to do is take out a negative 1 to give me 2y minus 1. So now, I'm going to bring that 3 down. My binomial that they have in common is 2y minus 1. And then I'm left with 3y minus 1. So I've got 2y minus 1 equals 0 to get 1/2. Right? Add the 1, divide by 2. And then 3y minus 1 equals 0 to get 1/3. Add the 1, divide by 3. And lastly, find the x-intercepts. We've done this. To find the x-intercept, set y equal to 0. And solve for x. So in A, we're going to have 0 equals x plus 3, x minus 6. So step 1, does it equal 0? It does. Well, step 2 and 3 are already done. This is in its factored form. So we're all ready to step 4, set these both equal to 0. So 7x plus 3 equals 0. Subtract your 3. And then divide by 7. So one answer is negative 3/7. And then my second answer is x equals 6. Okay, and again, if they want those as ordered pairs, negative 3/7, comma 0, and 6, comma 0. Okay, however, they want that answer wrote. Same thing on B, but this time they didn't do the hard part for us. So 0 equals 3x minus 10x minus 8. So So do I have a GCF? And I do not. So we'll go into our X. My A times C is 3 times negative 8 to get negative 24. My B term is negative 10. So what adds up to negative 10 but multiplies to negative 24? This one, be very, very careful. Your answer should be negative 12 and 2. Now, when I first looked at this, I was thinking negative 6 and negative 4, because that adds up to 10, but when I multiply, I get a positive 24. So be careful on that one. So I rewrite that middle term. We got 3x squared minus 12x plus 2x minus 8. And this first grouping, my GCF is 3x. That leaves me with x minus 4. And my second grouping, my GCF is a positive 2, so notice I'm putting plus 2. So I know what to pair up with that. And that leaves me with an x minus 4. So we've got 0 equals, my common binomial is x minus 4. And then that leaves me with 3x plus 2. Now, I'm definitely out of room, but set them both equal to 0. So when I set x minus 4 equal to 0, that gives me 4. And if I need that as an ordered pair, that's 4 comma 0. And when I set this equal to 0, you're going to subtract the 2, divide by 3. So you've got x equals negative 3 over 2. And I guess I did have a little bit more room. Sometimes I squish that so much. And then I don't think it shows you graphs on this one. But just in case, on A, I don't know if you guys can hear my dog snoring, but he's snoring. I'm very jealous. You're going to have a parabola that looks something like this, where this is your negative 3 over 7, and this is your 6. And then same thing here. Here's your parabola, and it's crossing right here at negative 3/2 and 4. All right, that's all I got for this lesson. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I will see you next time.